as I'm sure you can tell, this is our old buddy Donald Trump. He did an interview with Bret Baer. Now, Bret Baer is a Fox News host and an extremist. Naturally, you have to be an extremist to be on Fox News pretty much. But Bret Baer seemed to be kind of adversarial in this interview that he did with Trump, fascinatingly. So I wanted to listen to this interview, see what they had to say to each other, because I understand it got heated, and I understand that Trump incriminated himself multiple times in this. So let's give this a listen. This is actually part 2. If you haven't seen the first one, don't sweat it. This stands independently of the rest. I'll provide context if it's necessary. But let's listen to Trump. I know it looks like he's kissing Bret Baer. That's not what's happening here. He's complaining about something, certainly. Let's listen to Trump do his little complaining routine here. Check it out.
There were many things. I would say
much
more. Not that I know of, but not that I know of.
Okay. Okay, hang on. Let me step back a little bit here. I got to step back, get that context, because I remember this. At this point, Trump is talking about how the documents that he took from the secure bunker that were classified, TSSCI, secure compartmented information, the highest level of security aside from, I think there's one step above it. Trump stole those documents and took them to Mar-a-Lago. And he's being grilled about that. Why did you do that? And what was in it? And Trump is giving an excuse right now. So while we listen to this, we're going to play some Breath of the Wild 2. I'm just kind of going around getting some light roots. So yeah, just grinding. All right, let's give this a listen. I will not spoil any major plot points or anything. If there's any plot point, I will cut it out and we'll just go to Trump. So don't worry about that. So he's describing what was in the boxes that he stole from the U.S. government. It was top secret, secure, compartmented information is what it was.
With all sorts of things, golf shirts, clothing, pants, shoes. There were many things. I would say much.
Iran war plans, he says? Yes, in fact, there were Iran war plans. Now, at the time, we didn't know this, or we didn't have this information, but Donald Trump was bragging about this to somebody. We had transcripts of the recording. CNN obtained the recording. We'll listen to that in a minute. Listen to this.
Much more, not that I know of, but everything was declassified.
So that's what it looks like for Trump to lie. Now you know what it looks like when he's taken off guard and forced to lie. Quick interjection. I won't take long. I just wanted to tell you guys, YouTube's algorithm operates off of a few factors. Watch time, whether or not you subscribe, and whether or not you like something. So if you really want to help my channel, I would appreciate it if you guys watch the video to the end. If you don't watch it to the end, just watch a little bit longer than you would have otherwise. I would appreciate that very much. All right, let's get back to the video. Usually when people are taken off guard, they have a different reaction than they would have otherwise. Because they have to process, is this something I should be truthful about or something I should lie about? And when they realize, oh, I have to lie about this, something goes off in their head and they give a different reaction than they would otherwise if it was not something that they had to lie about. Lie detector testers, polygraphs, are not flawless by any stretch of the imagination. They can be beaten. But that's what they're meant to measure, the difference between a truthful statement and a lie. So he claimed that there was no Iran war, or there were no Iran war plans in the boxes that he took. He knew damn well there were. Let's just listen to the recording that we have here.
These are bad, sick people.
That was your coup, against you.
Well, it started right at the beginning.
When Milley's talking about, you were going to try to do a coup. No, they were trying to do that before you even were sworn in. That's right. Trying to overthrow your election.
Well, with Milley, let me see that. I'll show you an example. He said that I wanted to attack Iran.
So if you're watching this 5 years in the future, you're not familiar with the circumstances. General Milley, I believe he's the leader of the Joint Chiefs of Staff or whatever. It's basically Donald Trump's, or it's basically the president's top military commander. When the president wants something done, he tells the Joint Chiefs of Staff. And there's a guy that's at the head of the Joint Chiefs of Staff that leads the meetings and stuff. And that was Mark Milley. That was the guy. As high up as you get in the military, Mark Milley was. Now, Milley's a Republican, but he's also a patriot, a real patriot, not a fake one. And he believed that Trump was going to try to start a war with Iran to maintain power in the United States. After January 6th didn't work, Milley was basically faced with a problem. Is he going to obey the president's orders to start this war in Iran, which is his plan to maintain power, and refuse to turn it over to Joe Biden? Basically, is he going to militarize the United States? Was the question. And part of that plan was to invade Iran. So he had to determine, am I going to assist in this? Am I going to follow directions? Am I going to do what I'm told, as I've been taught to do my entire life in the military? Am I going to allow this guy to start a war with Iran to maintain power? And as far as I can tell, it got real heated between Trump and Milley, but I don't think that Milley was eventually faced with that decision, because he told Trump that he wasn't going to. That he's going to refuse to start the war with Iran. And that pissed Trump off more than you can believe. Why would they even write up a plan for war with Iran? There's really no reason for it, except that presumably Trump requested it, right? So anyways, Trump hates Milley now because Milley stood in his way. Despite being a Republican, he stood in the way and maintained our democracy as a result. Milley, look, people talk about Mike Pence making the right decision in the right moment, despite the fact that Pence is a nutcase in every other context. Milley's the real patriot. I mean, Pence was patriotic to refuse to, destroy democracy and put us in a constitutional crisis the way that Trump wanted him to. But Milley is really patriotic and respectable as hell. Anyway, let's keep listening. So, Trump does not like Milley at all.
Sworn in. That's right. Trying to overthrow your election.
Well, with Milley, let me see that. I'll show you an example. He said...
He's showing them the Iran war plans that were drawn up for him.
That I wanted to attack Iran. Isn't it amazing? I have a big pile of papers. This thing just came up. Look. This was him. They presented me this. This is off the record, but they presented me this. This was him. This was the Defense Department and him.
Yeah, because you requested it. You asked them to draw up plans to invade Iran, which would be probably the stupidest decision the U.S. could make. Do not go to war with Iran. They have nuclear weapons, to my knowledge, or they're on their way to having nuclear weapons. It would be bad. It would not be good if we went to war with Iran. I don't like the Iranian government by any stretch of the imagination. I think that they should be deposed, but, here we are.
Wow. We looked at some. This was him. This wasn't done by me. This was him. All sorts of stuff.
Yeah, dumbass. You requested the plans. You are not a military strategist. Of course, you wouldn't draw them up. But they were drawn up because you requested them so that you could contribute to a coup. Or so that you could enact a coup. Seriously.
Looked at some. This was him. This wasn't done by me. This was him. All sorts of stuff. It's pages long. Look. Wait a minute. Let's see here.
Yeah.
I just found, isn't that amazing? This totally wins my case,
What wins your case? What are you talking about? Of course, this is from 2021. So this is I don't even know which case he was talking about at the time. I have no idea. But it didn't win anything. And it certainly incriminated him in this case, in the documents case.
Except it is highly confidential, secret. This is secret information. But look at this. You attack, and
Hillary would print that out all the time.
You hearing this? They said this is super secret information. This is confidential. This can't get out. Literally looking at a printout of top secret SCI, secure compartmented information. Looking at a printout of it, and they say, Hillary would print this out if it were her. Well, guess what? He did print it out.
She'd send it to Anthony Weiner, the pervert. By the way,
this is kind of a shout out to some QAnon conspiracies a little bit. Anthony Weiner was involved in some conspiracies. Anyways.
Isn't that incredible? Though?
Yeah.
I was just saying, because we were talking about it. And, he said he wanted to attack Iran and what? These are the papers. This was done by the military, given to...
Yeah, you requested it. He knows this. You can't convince me he isn't aware that he's just propagandizing and lying here.
I think we can probably, right?
I don't know. We'll have to see. Yeah, we'll have to try to
Declassify.
figure out yeah.
See, as president, I could have declassified it. Now I can't, but this is classified.
Ooh, boy, you catch that? When I was president, I could declassify this, and now I can't. That's an interesting thing for Trump to say after arguing that he's allowed to declassify anything he wants by thinking about it, right? God, it couldn't get more damning than this. Like, the things that were said in this are just ship sinking for Donald Trump, seriously. How does it get worse?
So now we have a problem.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
It's so cool. I mean, it's so, here and I have, and you probably almost didn't believe me, but now you believe me.
No, I believe
It's incredible, right?
No,
hey, bring some Cokes in, please.
Bring some Cokes in, please. Wow, man. This has not been confirmed, but I believe that he was talking to a staff member and a journalist. I heard, again, take it with a grain of salt. I don't know if it's true. I heard the staff member was Liz Harrington. I haven't talked about her at length, but she is a complete nutcase. I'll probably insert a clip of her at some point. Anyway. Yeah, that's pretty bad. That's as damning as it gets, seems to me. Trump just picked a whole bouquet of oopsie daisies, right? That's about as damning as it gets for Donald Trump. So let's continue listening to him pretend that whole conversation never happened. That was released after this interview, by the way.
Everything was declassified, and Biden didn't have the right to do that because he wasn't president. Nor did Mike Pence, by the way, have the right to do that because he wasn't president.
I don't know about I think the vice president has the right to declassify things just like the president does. I'm not super 100% sure on that, though.
I'm not going to belabor this,
Brett,
but
when you look at
want to
this,
just get to the
other
specifics.
presidents, when they leave, they take the papers. They have thousands and thousands. Obama had it. Nixon had it.
Obama.
Carter had
Their
it. The
argument
Bushes
is that
had
these
it.
are super sensitive national security documents.
All right, so
here's,
I'm sure you'll
this
see
is-
real super sensitive that Biden has, because Biden has far more than anybody's ever kept.
And he turned them over when asked.
No, he didn't. He still has.
Yes, he did. He did turn it over when asked, in fact. Dude, Trump is so full of it. Like, everything the dude says is nonsense, right?
Given the 1,850 boxes that's stored at the University of Delaware. In fact, they're fighting them in court, and they're fighting them. And
But he
the
opened
boxes,
up for them to look at it.
excuse me, the boxes from Chinatown, he didn't turn them over. He sent
Dude, he keeps saying this. There are no boxes from Chinatown.
them up to his lawyer in Boston to look at before they handed him over.
And their special counsel is looking at that, and we'll see what comes out of
Well,
it. But
you
I
can
do want to
imagine-
just
you can
end with
imagine
this. I
what's
don't want to
gonna
dwell on it. But according to the indictment, you were here at Bedminster on July 21st, 2021, after you're no longer president, and you were recorded saying that you had a document detailing a plan of attack on another country that was prepared by the U.S. military for you when you were president, the Iran attack plan. You remember that?
Ready?
You were
It
recorded.
wasn't a document.
Okay.
I had lots of paper.
No, it was a document. We just listened to him admit that it was a document. And that, Milley drew up for him because he requested it.
Ready?
You were
It
recorded.
wasn't a
Ready?
document.
Okay.
I had lots of paper.
No, it was a document that he showed to people who are not qualified or not, allowed to see it. They didn't have the security clearance to look at this stuff, and he showed them anyways, despite that fact. It doesn't get more damning than that, honestly. And Trump is in bad shape now, legally. And does he not care? I don't know.
I had copies of newspaper articles. I had copies of magazines.
Oh, yeah, and Iran war plans.
I
This
had
is
copies of
specifically a
everything.
quote. You're quoted
And-
on the
no,
recording saying the document was secret, adding that you could have declassified it while you were president, but, quote, now I can't.
Again, we did not have that recording that we just listened to at the time. But that was the recording that they were quoting. We had the transcripts to it.
You know this is still secret, highly confidential. And the indictment cites the recording and the testimony from people in the room saying you showed it to people there that day. So you say on this on tape
it says just the opposite.
that you can't
And
declassify it, so
you,
why have it?
It says just the opposite? What?
When
what
I
the question
said
is.
when I said that I couldn't declassify it now, that's because I wasn't president. I never made any bones about that. When I'm not president, I can't declassify.
And that's what you said. You didn't
I said
declassify it.
that. I said no. I said I couldn't.
No, you said you couldn't declassify it anymore, and that's about the damnest. And that's about the most damning thing you could have possibly said in that moment. He's pretending this exonerates him or something. No. Go ahead and make that argument in court. That's fine with me. Go ahead.
But that wasn't a document, Brett. There was no document. That was a massive amount of papers and everything else talking about Iran and other things.
It's Iran.
And it may have been held up or may not, but that was not a document. I didn't have a document per se. There was nothing to declassify. These were newspaper stories, magazine stories, and articles.
I'm just saying what the indictment says.
Well,
the recording
these people,
and the
look,
people in the room who
these
testified.
people are very dishonest people. They're thugs. They're thugs. If you look at what they've done.
What does that mean? You know, back in the 90s, the Clintons were really racist, and they did like this crime bill and stuff that was absolutely terrible. And they referred to super predators and a bunch of stuff, and they talked about black people as thugs. That's the word they use, thugs. That word specifically has very unique connotations that uniquely apply to the black community because of its racist past. So I find it interesting that he's using the term thugs here.
To other people, what they've done and overturned in the U.S. Supreme Court, these are thugs.
The
These are
suggestion
dishonest
was that
people.
you wanted this as evidence that the military, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, General Milley, had preemptively sent you plans for a possible attack on Iran and that you didn't order that to happen. That's the
I
suggestion.
never ordered it to happen, no.
Yes, he did.
That's why you wanted the document.
I don't think I've ever seen a document from Milley. Milley, frankly, was incompetent. The last one I'd want to attack with as my leader would be Milley.
No, actually, Milley is extremely competent, but okay.
That I can tell you.
All
but
right,
I think
last
you
thing
know
on
that.
this. There are 31 documents listed. Nuclear capabilities of foreign countries, related to military capabilities of foreign countries, intelligence briefings on foreign countries. Why do you want to hold on to those documents after you're president?
That's actually fascinating. He had nuclear capabilities of other countries, intelligence briefings on them. That's really interesting. God, to get a glimpse into some of that stuff would be fascinating, wouldn't it? Sadly, we'll probably never know, which is for the best, I suppose. You know, I don't want anybody getting one over on the U.S. And what's more, I don't want the U.S. getting one over on anybody else. I just don't want any war, you know? And I think, like, revealing intelligence information would probably cause problems for everybody. The U.S. primarily, but everybody. I just don't want any wars.
Hold on to those documents after you're president.
I don't say I do.
You just didn't know it was in the boxes?
We were discussing with NARA giving them back. All of a sudden, we've got raided, which is a violation of my, Fourth Amendment rights.
No, the Fourth Amendment rights can be suspended in certain situations. It's your Fourth Amendment right is your right against unreasonable search and seizure. That's the key word there. The government is allowed to search you and seize your property in certain circumstances. It's perfectly fine. So this is not a violation of your Fourth Amendment rights.
Raided my home, and they came in and they took things. We were discussing this with NARA. Look at Obama, look at Clinton.
Why are we talking about Obama and Clinton? First of all, they didn't do anything anywhere near as bad as Trump did. And second, even if they did, we're not talking about them. We're talking about you right now.
Clinton took documents. Clinton took tapes in his socks.
Interviews with a
happened?
historian.
The Clinton socks case.
I do know it well.
And it basically said the president has every right to keep whatever he wants. And
Okay, I don't know what they're talking about. This could be completely made up. Could be. It is almost certainly a bastardization of what actually happened. Don't trust a word out of their mouths without looking it up yourself, okay? Because they lie for a living, both of these people. That's like what they do day in and day out.
that includes me.
And the question is
This
whether
was not a criminal case. Let me tell
highly
you.
classified government national security documents fall in that category, and that battle is going to be fought in the courts.
It's already been fought.
All right.
There's a decision strongly that you can keep. But I wouldn't have kept. But they raided my house. They came in and raided. We were discussing having very good
Such a victim, right? This poor guy. He's always a victim of everything, always. It's just embarrassing, man. Get over yourself.
discussions with NARA, a radical left group, by the way, and all.
No, it's just the National Archives. Just because it's not a right-wing extremist group doesn't mean that it's a left-wing extremist group. But he doesn't understand the nuance there. Insane.
All of a sudden, my house got raided.
Do you know if you still have any highly sensitive government documents?
No, I don't have anything, no.
You hear that? That sounded like another lie to me. No, I don't have anything, no. It sounded like a lie, right? You remember what he sounds like when he lies. So we listened to it a minute ago. Let me know what you think. Is that another lie?
Okay.
But what I'm concerned about, they took everything, right? I don't know what they took. They could be stuffing it. I don't know what they put in there.
You know exactly what they took. And either way, they took pictures of everything that they took. But I guess this is his whole grift that he's doing next. Oh, they planted evidence on me. Why would they do that? Why does anybody care?
And we wanted to be there when they were taking. They wouldn't let anybody in the room. They've never treated a president like this.
And that's fair for you to point out. I guess what this points to is this recording where you said you could have declassified it when you were president. You didn't.
No.
Yeah, just picked a whole bouquet of oopsie daisies there, didn't he?
But
Could
still
have
classified.
when I was president, but there's no document there. Those were newspaper articles.
Okay.
They were copies of articles and
No, they were Iran war plans.
magazines. There was no document there. And I couldn't have done it after I was out.
This is what you said in 2016 about handling this.
In my administration, I'm going to enforce all laws concerning
All lores.
the protection of classified information.
Yeah, this is because there was a big culture war thing happening with Hillary Clinton at the time, and he was looking for an easy political win, you know, an easy way to attack his political enemies. So he said he's going to, you know, enforce these blah, 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 even though it was just garbage. It was just intended to attack his political enemies. Simple as that. It turns out that he was doing just more, like, terrible stuff. Like, super illegal things. Way more illegal things than Hillary Clinton did.
No one will be above the law. We also need to fight this battle by collecting intelligence and then protecting our classified secrets.
All for it. Love it. Fantastic idea.
We can't have someone in the Oval Office who doesn't understand the meaning of the word confidential or classified.
Couldn't agree more.
Your Vice President Mike Pence says he's, quote, deeply troubled by what's in the indictment. And he says, quote, the indictment contains serious charges and I cannot defend what's alleged.
Mike Pence had documents that were classified.
So it's an interesting route that he's taking here. I don't care if Pence had documents. Great. If he did, charge him too. I could not possibly care less about any of these people. If somebody broke the law, charge them with a crime. We're talking about you right now. Not Pence, not Clinton, not nobody. You. Take some responsibility.
He turned them over.
No, he didn't turn them over. He got caught.
No, he did turn them over, actually. He willingly turned them over of his own free will. And even if he had been caught, he turned them over easily without trying to cover it up like Trump did.
His lawyers found some documents, and then he turned them over. Why did he have them? He shouldn't be saying that because he had classified documents. And immediately they said, oh, that's okay. And I suppose it's going to be okay with Biden, too, even though he has them in Chinatown.
It's okay with them because they turned them over immediately and didn't try to cover it up like Trump did, first of all. And second, the documents that these people had were not, like, removed from these facilities because they wanted to keep them. They were working from home, which is allowed, actually. They just forgot to return them, first of all. And second, They weren't anywhere near as sensitive as the documents that Trump took. Trump took top secret, secure, compartmented information documents. There's one level higher than that. This is stuff that would be like, what is it? I forget the term. Gravely. What's the word? There's a term for it. They've determined that things that are that level, if they got out, it's gravely detrimental, maybe gravely detrimental to national security. Trump he doesn't care. He just wants to do whatever and have zero consequences, as he has his whole life.
Even though he has them in Delaware, and probably 100 times more than I have.
So you're not worried about this case?
Based on the law, zero. Zero.
So he's worried that he's going to be politically persecuted because that's what happens to Trump. He's politically persecuted, right? But he's not worried about the law, apparently. This guy's so full of it.
Presidential Records Act plus
is irrelevant here.
The act plus the Clinton case, which was won by Clinton as president because he took tapes of leaders in his socks.
What the hell is he talking about right now? Again, don't trust a word out of this guy's mouth, okay? Look everything up before believing a word that he says. He's proven himself to be completely untrustworthy, a known liar.
Zero.
Okay.
Zero. And every good lawyer has said it, and you've seen that. Every good lawyer has said that.
Obviously, there are others who push back. And
this was a weaponization of politics. This was a weaponization of the White House. This was a horrible thing. A candidate that's leading, I'm leading Biden by a lot. They go out and...
No, he's not leading Biden by a lot. But he wants to convince people that he is leading Biden by a lot. Because if he can convince people of that, then when he loses, it looks a lot more suspicious, a lot more confusing. People don't know what's going on. They don't understand. Wow, I thought he was leading Biden by a lot. How could this have happened? Completely ignoring the fact that he's full of it. He's been full of it this entire time. At no point was he leading Biden by a lot. The reason he says that is for the exact same reason that he said there was no collusion between him and Russia. The Mueller probe showed there's no collusion. Actually, it showed there was collusion. That's what the Mueller probe showed. But he repeats this enough, and people believe it. If he says it over and over and over and over again, every time you hear the word Mueller, you think no collusion. He's trying to link them in people's heads. It's a propaganda technique that he's laying down right now. So, yeah, I'm not surprised that he's saying all this stuff. It's just not helping his case in court. I guess he's going to try to take this straight to trial, no plea bargains or anything, I'm assuming. And he thinks if he can change the minds of average citizens, maybe he'll have a better shot against a jury. I mean, you only have to convince one that you're innocent. It has to be unanimous. So I don't know. I'm assuming that's his plan.
Of course.
But what do you say to the voter who really liked many of your policies?
They still do.
But they
God, this dude is so stupid.
Can't handle the scandals or the controversies or the name-calling or the vitriol. What do you say to that voter who's worried that all leads to a general election loss?
So, based on the polls, I'm leading Biden by a lot.
No. Again, this is a lie. This is simply not true. Biden is leading Trump in every single poll, except maybe one. But when you're looking at polls like this, you need to take an average. I don't know if you guys have heard this. I forget what this law is called, this law of the universe. But if you're at a carnival and they have one of those, those big jars of beans, and they say, look, if you if you guess how many beans are in there within 100, then I'll give you $5,000 or something like that. And you go to every single person standing around and you get their guesses. If you average those guesses out, add them up and divide them by how many people you asked, you will get a pretty close approximation of the truth. I don't know why it works that way. It just does. It's like a rule of the universe. It's the law of averages or something. I don't remember what it's called. Anyways, that's why we take poll aggregates. We look at all of the polls from the best rated pollsters, the ones that have gotten things most consistently correct. We use their strategies, their, what would you call it? We use those pollsters' methodologies. That's what I was looking for. We use their methodologies, and we average those polls out to figure out roughly where the candidates are. And the polls are actually very accurate, within a margin of error of about 3%, give or take. So there was a single poll, I understand, that showed Trump winning over Biden. One. The average has not changed. The average is still really, really low for Trump and high for Biden. I mean, hell, let's just look at it right now. Look at this snapshot in history and see where the polls are right now. 538.com is a good one. Again, it depends on the moment in history that this is happening. So when the election comes along, lots of stuff is going to happen between now and then. And it's likely to change people's opinions on things. But let me just take a look here. Give me a second to find the right thing. Where's the aggregate? So in hypothetical matchups, YouGov, which is a trustworthy one, had Trump as up by 4 points. So Biden gets 40%, Trump gets 44%. But that was just a single poll, a single pollster. In Biden v. DeSantis, Biden is up by 2 points in one pollster. Premise. One. I guess it's a little bit early to look at aggregates. We're just going to have to wait around and see what happens with this. But yeah, in one recent poll, I guess, Trump was ahead. Now, okay, there are two polls here also. June 23rd, we had one by premise. We had two different polls by premise. One poll showed Trump at 42%, Biden at 40%, and another one showed Biden at 34%, Trump at 41%, so up 2, up 7. It is a dead heat right now. Here's another poll right here. Look, YouGov did another poll on June 16th with Biden up 4 points against Trump. So, yeah, it just like, it's a complicated field. You can't just say, I'm ahead of Biden because this one pollster came out and said that I am. It's not how it works. And for the record, a lot of people believe that the polls are inaccurate and bad. That's not true. Polls are actually very accurate. People were saying in 2016 that Hillary Clinton was guaranteed to win and all this other stuff. They weren't saying that because the polls reflected that. The polls reflected exactly what happened. It was just the pollsters. It was the people. It was the talking heads. It was the political commentators that believed that Clinton was guaranteed to win. There was no data to back that up. So, anyway, yeah, let's keep listening to Trump here. I just wanted to hammer on that, make sure that he doesn't get away with it.
I'm leading Biden by a lot. Based on the polls, I'm leading all of the Republicans by a lot.
That's true. That one is true.
By 40 points.
Yes.
And more. Right now, I have the best polls I've ever had. People see this stuff for what it is. It's a political witch hunt. It's a continuation.
More independent voters watch Fox News than any other TV source.
A lot less than used to watch it.
Oh, God, yeah. Trump doesn't like Fox News anymore. He's kind of taken an adversarial stance with them because they haven't, gotten on the ground and kissed his feet, basically. That's why. They're kind of hedging their bets. They're not sure if, they want to go with DeSantis or not. They're keeping it open.
You watch. Those voters usually make up all the difference in the election. And so to the female independent voter in the suburbs who struggled with family financing because of inflation, she's now against Biden, disapproves of Biden, but wasn't with you in 2020 and so far is a hard no for you in 2024. But what do you say to that?
Looking at the right polls.
What do you say to that female independent suburban voter who feels that way, to win her back?
First of all, I won in 2020 by a lot, okay?
Oh my God, dude. This guy cannot let go of it. He's giving you a chance to make a plea to these people, to tell them why they should vote for you. Sell yourself. Tell us why we should vote for you. And what does he say instead of telling us why we should vote for him?
I won in 2020 by a lot, okay? Let's get that straight. I won in 2020.
You know that this,
and if you look at all of,
It's just painful, dude. This guy cannot give up on it.
if you look at all
That's
of the
not
tapes,
what
if
the
you look
vote
at
showed.
everything that you want to look at, you take a look at Truth to Vote, where they have people stuffing the ballot boxes on tapes, or
They did not have people stuffing ballot boxes on tape. That's just made up nonsense.
let's
that
go
was
to
all
recent.
looked
Well,
into.
wait a minute. Let's go to recent. FBI Twitter. Let's go to recent. The 51 agents, all corrupt stuff, Brett.
Understand about the
All-
Hunter
well,
Biden,
no, but
all
that's cheating
fair
on the
things,
election.
but
Brett, that's cheating on the
you
election.
lost the 2020 election.
Brett.
Oh boy, that's the wrong thing to say to Trump. That's a good way to get him revved up.
You take a look at all of the stuffed ballots. You take a look at all of the things, including
There were no stuffed ballots. There's no things that he's referring to here. It's made up.
things like the 51 intelligence
There
agents.
were recounts in all of the swing states. There was not significant
We're
widespread
trying
fraud.
to get recounts, real
There were
recounts, not just numbers of
investigations,
votes
widespread
cast.
corruption.
Real recounts, right? Because the other recounts didn't count, apparently. The recounts in Arizona, a lot of these were run by Trumpist nutcases. A company named Cyber Ninja ran one in Arizona, famously, and the leader of Cyber Ninja was a Trump supporter. And they were like looking for bamboo fibers because they believed China sent in these ballots or whatever to try to get Trump to lose. Bamboo fibers, really. They were looking for bamboo fibers. And they didn't find anything. You know what? Actually, I'm sorry. That's not true. Cyber Ninja did find something. You know what they found? They found that Biden got more votes than initially thought. I am dead serious. They found more votes for Biden. So go ahead and tell us more about how there haven't been any real recounts.
Numbers of votes
Widespread
cast.
corruption. There was not a sense of that. There were lawsuits, more than 50 of them, by your lawyers, some in front of
Ready,
judges that you appointed.
Exactly. Bret Baer is completely correct here.
Look at Wisconsin.
That came out with no
Wisconsin
evidence.
Wisconsin has practically admitted it was rigged. Other states
No, they didn't. What are you talking about? Wisconsin didn't say anything was rigged.
are doing the same right now, and it's continuing.
There have
on.
been
It was
reviews
a
of
rigged
every
election.
potential case of voter fraud in 6 battleground states, and they found fewer than 475 cases.
You know why?
that were
Because they
not
didn't
affected.
look at the right things.
Okay,
Brett.
are you going
they
to
were
be-
counting? They were counting ballots, not the authenticity of the ballot.
God, Trump is insufferable, isn't he? He's like a child. It's cringy and terrible to listen to this dude constantly talk about how he is a victim of all of this injustice in the world. Dude was born with a platinum spoon in his mouth, and he is the victim in every situation. Just get over yourself.
The ballots were fake ballots. You had this
I
was
asked,
a very rigged
Are you
election.
going to go, this is how you're going to tell that independent suburban
No.
woman?
Thank you. Exactly. This is what you're supposed to be doing, selling yourself. Why are you telling us about how the election was rigged when it wasn't?
voter
no,
to vote for
we're
you?
off to winning an election, and I think we're winning very well. I got a poll just recently. I have it here. I'd
No,
show
I
you.
know. And I watched
But
the numbers.
I've shown you every poll. I showed you we were leading by tremendous numbers,
poll-
and
No, they were not leading by tremendous numbers.
we're
change.
leading with women, huh?
You know polls change. I mean, they changed in 2016 to your favor.
Like, here's the thing about how this all worked. Let's just assume that Trump really did win in 2020. Let's assume that for a moment. We've seen the trends in the United States for where people stand politically over decades and decades, and we've seen things shift and move and change, and, you know, over all the years, we've seen this stuff happen. We know exactly how many Democrats and Republicans there are in the country, basically. And even if Trump did win in 2020, it's irrelevant because it's still an uphill battle. This is a new election that you have to, you know, campaign for and battle and fight for. whether you won in 2020 or not. But Trump is ignoring that and leaning on the idea that he really secretly won all along and that he was cheated out of it and that he really got 45 states out of 50. I mean, come on. Who believes this? It's absurd.
I thought I was doing well from the beginning, but, you know.
But they changed the polls.
So he's not even going to bother, like, appealing to people. He's not going to bother because he knows he's going to claim it was rigged one way or another. This is how democracy dies. This is how it happens right here. Just sad, man.
What did you learn from your first term that you took from and changes that you would make if you get elected?
I would like to be less combative, but I find...
Really? Okay. Well, I'm not seeing that reflected in what you're doing.
But I find the press is extremely dishonest. And if I'm not combative, I don't get my word across. If I'm not combative, I don't know. I don't think you could win. I think...
So he wants to be less combative, but he's not changing that after all. He says, I'd like to, but yeah, I'm just going to continue being combative. He asked what you were going to change.
Regardless, me or somebody else, if somebody else got the nomination, these radical left maniacs would come after them at a level like you've never seen before, and they're not going to be able to withstand it. Our country is sick. It's sick. We have people that will do anything, and it's a very sad thing, like the document hoax. They should have never been brought. We're in the middle of a political campaign, and they want to arrest the opponent who's leading the person that's, in theory, in charge of government.
Interesting. So he's claiming political persecution here. I'm sorry, man. It's not about political persecution. You broke the law. You ever notice that they didn't arrest any of his campaign staffers? They didn't arrest DeSantis, who was actually pretty close to Trump in his poll numbers. He was very possibly like the only person that could challenge Trump, honestly. You ever notice how they never arrested anybody like that? It was only Donald Trump and Donald Trump himself. You think maybe that's because you did something wrong? No, it couldn't be that, right? Has to be political persecution because Trump is the most persecuted person alive, right?
This stuff shouldn't happen.
So what changes would you make?
Strong people, strong government. You know, when I came down to Washington...
Wait, strong people, strong government. What?
I was in Washington 17 times in my life in D.C. And
Did this dude count how many times he visited Washington, D.C.? What changes you going to make, Donald? Seriously. You're supposed to be telling us what you would do if you got into office.
I was saying overnight, I was never there. I didn't know the people. I didn't know that world, other than I was involved in politics from the other side very much. And
from the other side? He's involved in politics from the other side? What?
I put great people in, but I put some people like Bill Barr and Bolton and a few of them that, you know, actually Bolton was good because every time I negotiated, people said, oh, they've got this maniac here. He's going to go to war with us, and they'd concede every point. I mean, it was actually pretty good in a certain way. But we put people...
Dude, what the hell is he talking about right now? John Bolton, that's his name, right? John Bolton? I think I keep confusing him with Michael Bolton. I think it was John Bolton. Anyway, you know, Michael Bolton from Office Space? Anyways, yeah, John Bolton was very famously a war hawk. He'd do anything to start a war with somebody. That's what it was all about for this dude. And, you know, people realized that and were really concerned that some crazy shit was going to happen because he was in Trump's administration. He's a terrible person. John Bolton was. That's what he's talking about right now.
And that were great, and we put people in that weren't. I now know Washington probably better than anybody. I know the good ones and the bad ones, and we will have really great, strong people.
Oh, so you hired a bunch of really bad people, even though you told us you're going to hire a bunch of really good people. But this time you're going to hire good people. And not like last time, right? Okay. So he's basically saying, when asked this question, what would you do if you got into the presidency? He said in 2016, I would hire the best people. And he failed that miserably. And when asked a second time, what would you do? He says, I'd hire the best people. No, you already proved you don't know how to do that.
I already know who they are, but we will have really great, strong people.
Okay. In 2016, you said that. I'm going to surround myself with only the best and most serious people.
Well, I did do that,
This
and we
time-
had tremendous.
No, he didn't. That's fascinating. Bret Baer is pointing out exactly what I said.
Look, we had the best economy we've ever had.
This
The world
time-
has ever seen.
Your vice president.
No, you didn't have the best economy. What the hell are you talking about? Your economy tanked at the end. You can claim that was because of COVID. It probably was, but it was also because of your stupid policies.
Has ever seen.
Your vice president, Mike Pence, is running against you.
Yeah.
Your ambassador to the United Nations, Nikki Haley, she's running against you. Your former Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo, said he's not supporting you. You mentioned National Security Advisor John Bolton. He's not supporting you either. You mentioned Attorney General Bill Barr, says you shouldn't be president again, calls you a consummate narcissist and troubled man. You recently called Barr a gutless pig. Your second defense secretary is not supporting you, called you irresponsible. This
Yeah, basically nobody is supporting Trump anymore. They're done with him.
week, you and your White House called your White House Chief of Staff, John Kelly, weak and ineffective and born with a very small brain. You called your acting White House Chief of Staff, Mick Mulvaney, a born loser. You called your first Secretary of State, Rex Tillerson, dumb as a rock. And your
Dude, this is... God, I love it. I love that Bret Baer put in the legwork to find all of this stuff. Absolutely.
first Defense Secretary, James Mattis, the world's most overrated general. You called your White House Press Secretary, Kayleigh Canadian, milquetoast, and multiple times you've referred to your Transportation Secretary, Elaine Chao, as Mitch McConnell's China-loving wife. So...
Just disgusting, dude. Trump is a disgusting human being in a lot of ways, honestly. How does he justify this stuff? Seriously. This behavior, this racism, this hatred, this bigotry. How? How can he justify this garbage to himself?
Why did you hire all of them in the first place?
Because I hired 10 to 1 that were fantastic. We had a great economy. We had phenomenal people in charge of the economy. We had phenomenal people in the military. I'm not a fan of Milley, and I'm not a fan of certain of the television people. But I knocked out ISIS. I defeated ISIS. They say
Really? So if we go there, then ISIS isn't going to be there, right? I say the same thing to my kid. I change the trash. Really? So if I go in there and check, then the trash is going to be empty, right? So if we go to the Middle East, there isn't going to be an ISIS, right? It's just absurd, dude. Come on. You did not defeat ISIS. He took out Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi. I'm sorry. No, he didn't. My mistake. The military, when Trump was president, took out Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, the leader of ISIS. That does not mean ISIS was defeated by Donald Trump. Absurd. He takes responsibility for things that he didn't even do, though. That's just Trump, of course.
Mattis, it would take 3 years, and I don't think we can do it. I did it in a period of like 4 weeks.
There's a lot of
We
people who
knocked
praise you for your policies. I just said
True.
that.
That's true. Well, I mean, you just went through a list. But don't forget, for every one you say, I had 10 that love us. And one thing happens, I find, with me that I think didn't happen so much with other presidents. Call it glamorous time, call it whatever. But with me, the Times, the Washington Post, various people, even Fox, because, you know, I'm no great fan of Fox anymore. They fought me very hard. Well, you got to get your word out somehow, right?
Oh, give me a break, dude.
They fought me very hard in 2016, very much the way they're fighting me now. Very, very hard.
Yeah, I mean, well, the thing is, Trump wants to be nominated king. Like, he just wants to receive the nomination with no struggle whatsoever. And Fox, you know, they're not really fully convinced that Trump should win or is going to win or whatever. I would be willing to bet that Tucker Carlson's firing might have had something to do with the fact that Tucker seemed to be all in for Donald Trump, but Fox doesn't seem to be all in for Trump yet. So I don't know. I mean, it's there's really no way to know for sure. No way to tell exactly why Tucker was fired or what Fox's position is on this or whatever else. But anyways, yeah. He just wants to be picked as the king in this situation when That's not how this works.
And I won. Then they became very nice. But I will tell you that something happens when people leave. They can like me very much. I have this woman named Alyssa Farah. She said the greatest things. Long after she left, he's the greatest president we've ever had. He was unbelievable, unbelievable. Then The View offered her a contract. But obviously, only if she changed her views. And all of a sudden, she can say negative things.
Okay, so people don't always represent their honest views. That's true. That doesn't mean that, like, the media is, like, corrupting people or whatever. It's just nonsense.
Money?
Yeah, the media is corrupting people to hate Donald Trump. They're paying people to hate him because naturally everybody likes him, right? So they have to give people money to hate him. That's how much he's loved and adored by everybody. Dude lives in, like, an alternate reality.
Gets offered to people, and some people change.
But there's
I will
people
say
on
this,
that list that are not taking money that decided that they're not
for the most
supporting
part,
you.
they are. You know, Barr did a book. Barr was a coward. The name people that you name, for every person you name, I can name 20 people that loved the administration. And maybe more importantly, the voters love the administration. The voters are dying to get back to it, Bret. The voters are tired of being laughed at all over the world. We're run by a fool. We're run by a man that doesn't have a clue.
I want to talk about...
In all seriousness, that's actually what people were saying when Trump was president. Seriously. We're run by a fool. We're run by somebody who doesn't have a clue. As a matter of fact, the United Nations laughed at Donald Trump. Do you remember that? When the UN laughed at Trump? Yeah, right here it is. This is from BBC. Check this out. This is when Trump was in front of the United Nations, in front of countries that represent the entire world, giving a speech. Check it out. This was 2018, I think. September 25th, 2018 is when the video came out. So I guess it happened in 2018.
Today I stand before the United Nations General Assembly to share the extraordinary progress we've made. In less than 2 years, my administration has accomplished more than almost any administration in the history of our country.
Absurd, right? What a ridiculous, dumb as dog shit thing to say.
America's so true.
And people are laughing. It's kind of hard to hear. I'll amplify it when I do the edits.
America's so true.
They're literally laughing at him. Does he not realize how much of an embarrassment he is as a human being? How bombastic and fucking stupid he is? And how people view him? Is he unaware of that? Does he not realize that skin is not supposed to be orange? Does he not realize that people think he's a fucking moron? Is this just slipped right over his head? That people are not laughing with him, that they're laughing at him? I guess he just, doesn't care, doesn't realize. Goes right over his head. I don't know. So true.
Didn't expect that reaction, but that's okay.
You know why he didn't expect that reaction? Because he bought his own bullshit. Because he believed his own nonsense. He thought that he was the king, the best, the smartest, the strongest. Because nobody was willing to give him a reality check. Nobody in his administration was willing to get up in his face and say, look, you don't know what you're talking about. You're full of it. This isn't the best administration. You're a moron. They wouldn't even say it nicely. I mean, I said it in a rude way. They wouldn't say it at all. And as a result, he believed himself to be the best. Incorrectly. When he steps outside of his little echo chamber of people who, believe that he's the best, or at least won't, tell him otherwise, when he steps outside that echo chamber, he's met with a harsh reality check. Didn't expect that response, but okay. He's an idiot. He is a moron. People were literally laughing at you, Trump, and it just went right over his head. And now he says, people are laughing at us right now. They think we're stupid. Where was that finely honed radar to detect when people think you're stupid 4 years ago? Where was that? Where the hell is that radar now? Is it out of service? What happened?
And that doesn't have a clue.
I want to talk about foreign policy, but just to leave this, you have former senior advisor Steve Cortez saying it's going to be tough for you to get the best and the brightest because of some of the name calling of people who left.
Well,
So
again,
what do you say to that?
Actually, it was hard for Trump to get a vice president in the first place. Nobody would do it. He didn't announce who the vice president was going to be until like near the end of his campaign, right? And he finally, like at midnight, announced that Pence was going to do it for him because nobody liked the guy. Nobody wanted anything to do with him. So naturally, he couldn't find somebody to be his vice president. Of course he couldn't. The only people that take this guy seriously are his sycophants. And even then, are they really taking him seriously, or are they just using him for what they can get out of him? You know, not for nothing, but there are big organizations in the atheist community. Mainstream organizations. Not talking about American atheists. It's not even about that. It's about other things. I like American atheists. But there are other organizations around and other people that view YouTubers as leeches, effectively. They view them as a blight on society. They're worthless. They're not real activists. People who talk about these issues aren't real activists. Only they are real activists, not YouTubers, right? When in reality, YouTubers are effectively the reporting arm of the atheist community. You know, YouTubers have their role in this whole equation, an important role. We aren't leeches. That's how it felt. That's how I was treated when I was smaller, a smaller YouTuber. Until I wasn't a small YouTuber anymore. Until I was a big YouTuber. The people in those organizations stopped treating me like a leech and started treating me like a patsy. Like they could use me for something, you know? It wasn't like, oh, let me put it this way. I like FFRF. FFRF has done a lot for me. I worked with them to help me when the school teacher was, when there was that big stochastic terrorism event against me in West Virginia, when I reported a school teacher for talking about Jesus in the classroom and everything else. FFRF helped me a lot, and I love the people there. Chris Line, and previously, what's his name? Andrew Seidel. He's not there anymore, but he was there. And again, some really fantastic people. If you don't know FFRF, it was started by Dan Barker. Now, I had about, 50, 60,000 subs at this time. Reasonably big. I was getting a lot of views. I was getting, maybe even as many. I was getting as many views then as I get now on my Fireside Chat channel, which is a lot. So I go to FFRF, and I got to meet the founder, Dan Barker. And I said to Dan Barker, hey, I'm a YouTuber. It's fantastic to meet you. And you know what he said to me? He said, oh, a YouTuber. Isn't it interesting that that's something that people can be nowadays? And it was like the most patronizing bullshit I had ever heard in my entire life. I haven't talked to Dan Barker since. Maybe he's just a nice guy and he was having an off day. I don't know. Who fucking knows? But that attitude is like all through mainstream atheism. Every organization just about has viewed me and YouTubers that way, generally. Like we're just leeches. Like, oh, you have no real contribution to the movement at all. And I thought to myself, you know what, when I get bigger, it's going to be different. They're going to view me differently. They're going to lend credibility to me when I get a little bit bigger. But you know what I discovered? When I got bigger, 350,000, coming up on 400,000 subs now, I discovered that they don't lend me credibility, or they don't view me as more credible or more legitimate when I get bigger. They view me as somebody that they can use. They view me as a way to improve their own position and standing. Why, of course I'll show up on your YouTube channel anytime you want me, even though I didn't ask. You know? And that's kind of what the equation is with Donald Trump, to bring it back to what we were talking about. I get the impression that nobody takes Trump seriously. Nobody. Not one person. In the political system, when you get higher up. I don't think anybody takes him seriously. But they know that they can use him. So they're nice to him. They treat him well. They talk positively to and about him. Because they think they can get something out of him. They never respected him. They never liked him. They never wanted anything to do with him. But they know they need him, so they're going to use him. In my opinion, I think that's probably what's going on with Trump. That's why he has so much power right now. Because people lend him that power so that he can wield it and others can use that power too.
Is a nice person, but I didn't give him the job he wanted because I didn't think he was qualified. Then he went over to the sanctimonious camp. I didn't give him the job. So I'd probably say the same kind of thing if I wouldn't get a job, if somebody wants a job. And a lot of the people that you mentioned there, they didn't get the job. A couple of them weren't made permanent. I didn't want to make them permanent because I didn't think they were good enough. Now, during the course of that 4 years, I know the best people. Remember this, we took out ISIS. We developed space.
He did not take out ISIS. The military took out Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi when Trump was the president. That is not Trump taking out ISIS like he's a Navy SEAL wearing the whole getup with a sniper rifle and everything. Like he was sitting on that cliff top with a spotter looking for the way the wind was blowing so they could take him out. Give me a break. You know, I joke, but there are actually pictures of Trump that circulate that look like that have him framed up as though he was the guy that was sitting on that mountainside with a sniper rifle aiming at Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi. I mean, look at this picture of Donald Trump as an angel with a sword. Somebody drew this, okay? Somebody believed that Trump was their savior so much that they decided to draw him as an angel. Really. Look at this one. Trump with what appears to be a lightsaber? Or maybe this is another, like, saber that you would use to slay God's enemies or something. Maybe it's just a sword, like an angelic sword or whatever. Or this one with Trump as Moses. People believe that Trump is the Messiah. They believe he's somebody special. Or how about this one? God bows down to President Donald J. Trump, declares he is perfect. Trump 2020. That's a real sign. Seriously. Donald J. Trump, the Son of Man, the Christ. This is a book that I read on my Telltale Reads YouTube channel. No fucking joke. They believe the guy is like a messiah. They believe that, you know, he was the person that did all this stuff. That he was that Navy SEAL sitting on a cliff top with a spotter and a sniper rifle. They believe this stuff about him. It's absurd. He's got a cult following at this point. No joke. Anyway, let's keep listening here.
Developed Space Force. I rebuilt the military. I got the largest tax cuts in history. I got the largest regulation cuts in history. I did right to try so that people don't have to die without a chance. We could use space-age medical knowledge, and we have the greatest labs in the world.
Space-age medical knowledge? What? Yeah, all of this stuff was standard Republican laws or bills or orders, executive orders or whatever. There's nothing listed here that Trump could do that others couldn't do. So he's not really selling himself, seems to me. He's just selling republicanism. And again, if you want this stuff done, then you can... Dude, this guy is driving me heckin' batty right now. He's not selling himself. I don't know what he thinks he's doing right now.
I did all of these things and much, much more. Nobody's ever seen it like that. One other
Nobody's ever seen it like that. Come on, man. Last time you said that, you got laughed at in front of the entire United Nations.
thing. Russia would have never invaded Ukraine. China would never be talking about even the concept of going into Taiwan.
Absurd. Russia was trying to get Trump elected so that they could go into Ukraine. And when he lost, they just walked away from it. And they said, okay, fine. We're going in anyways, basically. That's what happened. Russia most definitely would have invaded Ukraine still. In fact, Russia already invaded Ukraine in 2014. I don't know if you guys knew about this, but yeah, Ukraine was invaded in 2014 by Russia already. They invaded Crimea. And Obama put a bunch of sanctions on them and said, you can't do that. And then Michael Flynn worked with Russia to tell them, you know, that Trump was going to lift the sanctions once he got into office, so don't retaliate. That's what ended up getting Flynn in prison eventually, and pardoned by Trump, but that's neither here nor there.
Would have never happened. I was getting out of Afghanistan. We would have gotten out through dignity and strength. Instead, it was the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country.
It was literally Trump's plan.
These are all great things, and people want them back.
Mr. President, stand by if you would. Please join us after this break for the second part of the interview tonight.
That's all I've got for you. If you like what I do and you want to see me continue to do it, check me out on Patreon. And let me know if you want to see more stuff like this in the comments. Okay, thanks for watching, guys.